Welcome to Insider Insights, bringing advisors behind the scenes at the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta. This series intends to provide tax, legal, and financial advisors with insights and useful information to bring into conversations around charitable planning and giving back to the community when you're working with your clients. Nothing here is intended as tax or legal advice. We hope you'll find useful information and something that causes you to ask a few questions and then reach out to us to start a conversation so we can do more good here in Atlanta. Today we're talking private foundations with Director and Philanthropic Counsel Alison O'Carroll. Alison, welcome.
Thank you, Josh. I'm glad to be here.
Well, Alison, I want to start with the big picture of foundations. Tell us about operating versus non-operating foundations.
Josh, that is a great place to start. And I'd even back it up one step further, which is always think about what it is they want to achieve through their philanthropy, and then we figure out the structure. And one of the first places that you do start to make that distinction is between operating and non-operating foundation. And the question is, are they envisioning running their own programs, or is it going to be accomplishing their goals through other nonprofits, making grants to other nonprofits?
There seems to be some trade-off between complexity and flexibility.
One of the advantages with private foundations is the flexibility that it gives you. You choose who you like to hire, and that can include family members. You have control over investment of the assets that you want to put to philanthropic use. You can make grants to individuals or families that are in need. You can make international grants. You can do program-related investments, we call them. So there is a great deal of flexibility. However, that does come with the complexity that you touched upon. You have excess business holdings rules. You have minimum payouts that you need to do every year. You've got to have a board meeting. You've got to have minutes. There's all sorts of compliance issues. So if someone is thinking of a private foundation, they should be willing to kind of take that on as well. I would say almost everything you can do with a private foundation, you can do through a donor advised fund. The two exceptions to that are the hiring of family members. That doesn't really apply in a donor advised fund situation. And making grants or giving assistance to individuals. Monies out from a donor advised fund need to be made to public charities.
When folks are thinking about starting a foundation, another thing to think about at the beginning is what might happen at the end. Are there some options for how these foundations resolve themselves, or do they last forever? What are the options in that regard?
Really, when people think about starting a private foundation, I think they're usually thinking about perpetuity, that this is something that will continue beyond them. And we definitely have many examples of foundations that have done that. We have the Mellon Foundation and the Ford Foundation. But sometimes people will set up their foundations to be time limited. They might say it's got a 25-year run, and at that point we'll grant out all the money. So that would be an option. What we actually see that I think is unintended is foundations that just hit a point where it's not feasible for them to continue any longer. They dissolve, and oftentimes we have people coming to the community foundation to set up a donor advised fund instead.
I know private foundations take a lot of work to set up. They're a lot of work to manage. But there are some options for having some help. Just like high net worth individuals will hire an advisor to help with their taxes and legal issues, there's advisors who can help manage private foundations too.
We can provide help in the grant-making area, because that's another thing that sometimes people don't consider when they think of a private foundation. They want to do good, and they want to feel like they're in control of who they're going to give the money to, but that involves a process, right? Either you have to solicit proposals to come in, and then you have to evaluate the grants and have a decision-making process.
So the decision to create a private foundation is a complex one. Obviously, there's a lot to consider that we just discussed. If an advisor is weighing these decisions with a client of theirs, how can they reach out and get us involved in the process?
Just pick up the phone and call the foundation, and they will get you to the right person. We are happy to talk with advisors and or their clients about this. It's a very fundamental question, and one that we are very familiar with and can really help them think through what structure is going to be best for them.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insider insights today with our advisor audience, and thank you for joining us as well. Glad to have you with us, and we hope that you found something useful to bring to the conversations with your clients about starting a private foundation. As Alison said, if you've got questions, reach out to the Community Foundation. We're happy to bring our expertise into your conversations and help to do more good here in Atlanta.